Greetings, my name is Kerry and this is Kerry Louise Reads. Today I'm doing something I don't do very often. I think the last time I did this was about a year ago. I'm bringing you a book haul. It just so happens that I have acquired quite a lot of books in the last few weeks. For various reasons. We had my birthday in the last month, and then right after my birthday I got COVID and I had to isolate for 2 weeks. And so the first thing I did when I was allowed out of the house, I had to go and pick up my prescription from the pharmacy, and presenting great difficulty to me is the fact that there were 4 pretty good charity shops in the vicinity of the pharmacy, and having been in isolation for 2 weeks, I ended up buying a load of books. So that's where the majority of this haul comes from. There's also a few I picked up from the secondhand book shop at my college and a few from other places. So I'm just going to get into them. They're in kind of some vague semblance of an order. So we're going to start with the few that I was given for my birthday. I wasn't given a lot of books for my birthday this year, but I'm very pleased with the ones that I was given. So we're going to start with those. First of all, from my lovely friend Kayla, whose channel is Crack Into a Good Book. She's on a kind of on hiatus at the moment, but go and check out her channel. She does really great content. She sent me The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I'm growing to really love Silvia Moreno-Garcia as an author, and this is a retelling, I believe, of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, which I do have. So I'm going to try and read The Island of Dr. Moreau in the next month or so. I've been wanting to pick it up for a while anyway, because Dr. Moreau features in Amari and the Night Brothers, which we read for Space Irons earlier this year. So I'm going to try and pick that up soon. It's only a novella, so it's quite short, and then once I've read that, we'll read this. Very excited because I really like Silvia Moreno-Garcia's writing, particularly when she's writing in that more gothic style. Like, of the books of her that I've read, Mexican Gothic is still my favourite, and I think based on the cover, it's quite a similar cover design to Mexican Gothic. I'm hoping it's going to be kind of a similar thing, so excited for that one. My lovely friend Nikki, who blogs at Books and Lemon Squash, sent me The Deep Sea Duke by Lauren James. This is a sequel to The Starlight Watchmaker. It's from her kind of middle grade series, and I really loved The Starlight Watchmaker, and I'm excited to see where the series goes next. Nikki and I are both massive Lauren James fans, and I've read nearly everything she's written. I think I've got one book that I was given for my birthday last year that I haven't read yet, but I'm really excited to pick this one up. I'm not sure if I need to reread The Starlight Watchmaker first. If I do, it'll have to wait because that's in storage. The other thing I'm going to say about this book actually is it's published in the UK by an independent publisher called Barrington Stoke. You can see their name there. And they specialise in publishing books that are super accessible. So I don't know if you can tell, but the pages are kind of off-white. They're a slightly creamier colour than book pages usually are. And the font is a bit different, and it's to make them easier to read for people with dyslexia in particular. I just really love what they stand for as a publisher, and I've bought a few books from them in the past. They're kind of aimed at middle grade and younger end of young adult. Really excited for that one. The next one I was given for my birthday is a slightly different style of book. This was from my brother and sister-in-law, and they gave me a craft book which was on my Amazon wishlist. So this is Kawaii Craft Life. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I think in my head it's pronounced the same way as Hawaii, so Kawaii, but who knows. Anyway, this is a really adorable book. I mean, the idea of Kawaii is that it's about cute projects. It's a lot of needlework and embroidery kind of things, a little bit of cross stitch, sewing, hand sewing, and that's an area of crafting that I'm looking to get into more, and I just thought this book was super cute. I've wanted it for a while and I'm really excited they bought it for me. Really excited to try out some of the craft ideas in this book, and yeah, it's really cute. So on that note, I'm going to go into a couple of books that I bought just before I had COVID and went into isolation, like in the couple of days before. Because of the link, I picked up this craft book in a charity shop for £2. It's called Anyone Can Sew, and it's a really straightforward kind of step-by-step how to learn to sew by hand and by machine. I have a couple of similar books, but this one actually is much more accessible, I think, than the other one that I've got. I know kind of the basics of sewing, but I'm looking forward to kind of figuring out how to do a bit more. Particularly, I want to get into machine sewing more because I can only do really basic things at the moment, and every year I watch The Sewing Bee and I'm like, I want to sew more. So yeah, this is to help me do that. Yeah, it's just really lovely and in pretty good condition as well. And in that same charity shop, I always pick up Agatha Christie books when I find them. I found Cards on the Table for £1. So this is a Poirot novel. I'm not sure where it comes in the series, but this was one that I didn't already have, and it's fairly soon. I'm quite early into the series, so this one comes fairly soon after the one that I have to read next. So yeah, saw it for £1, thought that is worth picking up. And then one of my local supermarkets has a charity book stall, and usually I don't have any cash on me, but I saw 2 books that I kind of wanted and I happened to have cash on me that day. The first one I saw was Sword of Destiny, which is the second short story collection in the Witcher series, and I read the first one, The Last Wish, a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to pick up the rest of the series. I'm probably not going to read this one fairly soon. I think I'm probably going to read the other short stories, The Last Wish, again first, because it's been a little while. That's currently in storage, but this is a series I'm excited to get more into. I've had kind of mixed things about the series, but I just really enjoyed the writing, so I'm interested to see where it goes. The other one I got there was this one, The Guinevere Deception by Kiersten White. I've heard mixed things about Kiersten White as an author, but for like 50p in a charity book sale, I thought it was worth giving it a try. I think this is a first in a series as well about Camelot. I find Camelot quite fascinating. It's a great bit of British folklore. I'm interested to see what her take on the story is and whether I like her writing, because she gets really mixed reviews from some of my booktube friends. I'm scared that I'm building a really precarious pile of books on either side of me. When I came out of COVID isolation, as I said, I went slightly loopy. Okay, this stack is about to fall over, so I'm going to go into these next. I've separated some out because of a specific reason why I bought them. So these came from 4 different charity shops that are all in the vicinity of the pharmacy where I get my prescription. As I mentioned, I have pulled some out, so I can't remember the exact number I got in each shop. But in the first shop, I got these books. So I got Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This, my friend Justine from I Should Read That, she raves about this series. It's sci-fi. It's about, there's been a previous expedition to terraform a planet, but it went wrong somehow, and so the planet was abandoned, but the terraforming carried on. A few generations later, another expedition goes there, and I believe it finds giant intelligent spiders. I'm not scared of spiders, but I'm prepared to be slightly freaked out by this. Justine raves about this series. I'm really excited to have the first one and try out Adrian Tchaikovsky, because I've not read any of his stuff before. So thank you, Justine, for that recommendation, and thank you to the charity shop for selling it for £1.49. In that same shop, I got a Christmas romance by one of my favourite romance authors. So this is Christmas at the Island Hotel by Jenny Colgan. She is a romance writer that I really enjoy. She just writes sweet, generally chaste romances. There's not a lot of smut in them, which is kind of what I like in a romance. I know that's not everyone's preference. Some people really love the smut. It's not really for me. So I quite like her because of that. She has quirky characters. So yeah, I really like her, and I pick up her books when I see them in charity shops. Another one I got in that shop was this one called The Mistress of Spices by Chitra, Banerjee, Divakaruni. Probably butchered that name, I'm sorry, I should have looked it up before. So this is about an Indian immigrant in California who runs a spice shop, and it sounds like it's got kind of some magical aspects to it. She helps her customers when they come into her shop find like what they desire, and it sounds really fun and pretty cool, and I thought the cover was quite pretty. Yeah, so I picked that one up too. In the next shop, this was the kind of the biggest haul. So they have little baskets outside, so some of these books I got in their 3 for £1 deal, and some of them I just saw and thought I really want to read that. So the first one I picked up was The White Princess. So I'm actually currently reading this. I have a copy out from the library, which I need to take back. I picked this up because it's kind of a parallel to some of the stuff I'm looking at in my research. I'm not really enjoying it because I don't enjoy Philippa Gregory as an author. I don't particularly like her writing style or her interpretation of history, but that does make it quite interesting as a parallel. But I was thinking I would probably need to refer back to it in my research. So when I saw it for £1, I thought I might as well pick it up. And it also means I can take the library book back and just take my time reading this, because it's been making me quite slumpy because I haven't wanted to pick it up, but I felt like I should. So anyway, we're just going to take our time over it now. Another one that I saw that I got really excited by, this is Mrs. Death by Selena Godden. This is actually, you can see there it says it's signed, which it is. An exclusive edition, and it's signed and numbered, and there's actually even a little newspaper excerpt about the author tucked into it. I've not heard a lot about this book, but I'd seen it on the library ebook app and thought it looked quite interesting. So seeing a signed copy in the charity shop, I thought I would give it a try. I don't know much about it apart from it's about death imagined as a woman, and I don't know, it sounds quite interesting. Next, I saw in that shop The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So The Night Circus is a book that I really, really love. This has been on my radar for a while, and so to see it in a charity shop also has a beautiful cover. And so yeah, I picked that one up because I really liked The Night Circus. So I've heard mixed things about this from people that really like The Night Circus, so I'm not going to get my expectations up too high. I'm just going to see how it goes. I also picked up The Girl Who Reads on the Metro by Feret-Fleury. So this was translated from French. I mean, I just like books about people reading, so books about books are the best type of books, in my opinion. So again, it's got quite a cute cover. It's got French flaps as well, which I quite like. And I don't really know much about it other than it's about a girl who reads on the metro. We'll see what happens. In that shop also, I found a book called Madras on Rainy Days by Samina Ali. This is about a Muslim family in India, or from India, who've moved to America again, I think, actually. Sounds like a bit of a family saga. Again, really gorgeous cover. I'm such a cover buyer. I've also been trying to consciously pick up more books by authors of colour to help me read more, because if I don't own them, I can't read them. So that was part of the reason for picking this up, but I also thought the story sounded really interesting. And then the last one for now from that shop, I found Dewey by Vicky Myron, which is it's a non-fiction about a cat that lived in a library, and it sounds really cute. I love cats, I love books, I love libraries. This has everything I should want from a book. In the next shop I went into, I picked up a couple of books, and one of them I'm going to talk about in a minute, but the other one is The Passenger by Ulrich Alexander Boschwitz. This a friend had recommended a while back. It's set in Berlin just before the start of the Second World War, so kind of at the height of the Nazi regime, and is about what is happening to the Jews. It's fictional, but it's based on the reality of what was happening to Jewish people at the time, I believe. So interested to pick that one up. And then the final one I'm going to talk about for the minute, there's more. From the last shop I went into, I got The Stars Are Legion by Cameron Hurley, which is sci-fi, and I'm pretty sure has been nominated for a Space Sirens book club, but hasn't been picked. So I think some of the other Space Sirens have read it. I recognise the title for sure. I'm not really sure what it's about. Anyway, interested to see what that one's like. Okay, so in that same charity shop trip, I have a few others that I picked up from various of those shops that I haven't mentioned yet, and that is because I picked them all up with the intention that I would be reading them towards my Read Around the World challenge. Turned out not all of them would work for that, but never mind. So the first one that I picked up that sadly is not gonna count towards that, but I'm still really excited to read it, is called Frangipani by Celestine Veit, which I'm probably getting that name completely wrong. So this is written by a Tahitian and it's set in Tahiti, and I was like, great, Tahiti, I've not read a book for there yet. Forgetting that Tahiti is not a country in its own right, it's officially part of France. So that doesn't work for Read Around the World, but it's still exciting to be reading a book set in Tahiti. Again, it's got a really lovely cover, it's a family story, it just sounds really cute, and so I'm looking forward to picking it up. I might get to it soon as well, because sometimes it's nice to read books and set in hot places when it's cold outside. The next one I picked up is The Stationery Shop of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. I picked this up to read for an Iran book, forgetting that I've already read a book for Iran, but it still sounds like a really lovely story, so I'm still excited to read it anyway. And you know what, it's still great to read books from authors from all around the world, even if I've already read a book by an author from that country before. Doesn't matter, it's still good to read more widely. The next one I picked up would still work for Read Around the World. I have a book out from the library that would also work for this country, but haven't decided yet which one I'm going to count for it. So this is Conversations in Bolzano by Sandor Morai. He was from Hungary. I think it's a story about Casanova. It might be the original Casanova story. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a gothic romance and it sounds quite fun, and yeah, would count for Hungary for Read Around the World. That was also in the 3 for £1 deal, as was Frangipani, which is the other reason for getting them. The first one I actually saw, which still works for Read Around the World, was in the first charity shop, and this is called A Gazelle Ate My Homework by Habib Fani. He's from the Ivory Coast, and this is a memoir about his experience growing up in Ivory Coast, going to America and becoming a doctor, and his experiences of what that was like. Yeah, so I can read that for Ivory Coast, or Côte d'Ivoire as I think it's officially called now. It sounds quite interesting, and I just thought the title was really funny. And then the last one I picked up was Read Around the World. I think it's self-published. It's called Mylena and Other Social Reforms by Olya Nezevic. Maybe. Probably saying that name wrong too. She's from Montenegro, which is another country I haven't read anything from yet. Sounds like it's a bit of a coming of age story, maybe slight thriller. Oh, it sounds like it's to do with human trafficking, so maybe a bit darker than I originally thought. Anyway, interested to read that. I do quite like Eastern European fiction. Like, I've read some really good fiction from Eastern Europe, so I'm interested to see what I think of this one. So that was like the first day out of COVID isolation, and then in a few days afterwards I went to another charity shop that's probably the nearest one to my house, and actually in 2 separate trips I picked up 3 books from there. The first one was Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir of a young woman who grew up in a cult, and when she eventually escaped from that, how she was able to gain an education. I've heard really mixed things about it, but I thought for like £1 in a charity shop it was worth giving it a try, so I got that one. I also got The Storms of War by Kate Williams. Kate Williams is one of my favourite TV historians, and this is one of her novels. So she's written a couple of novels as well as a couple of non-fiction. This is slightly battered, and I don't usually buy books that are this battered from charity shops, but I do quite like Kate Williams as an author. Well, I say as an author, I haven't read any of her books yet. I like her as a person, as a historian, so I'm interested to see what she's like as a novelist. So I got that one, and then on my most recent trip there, I got Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I really loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I really loved Daisy Jones and the Six. So seeing another of her books cheap in a charity shop, I thought I'd give it a try. I don't really know what it's about, but Taylor Jenkins Reid is an auto-read author for me. Nearly there, I promise. So the next little stack of books I'm going to talk about came from the second-hand book shop at my university. So it's quite a small university, but we get loads of donations of books, generally from vicars, church leaders, when they retire or when they move, and there's just not enough space for them all, so we were encouraged last week in college to like go and have a browse. They sell them for like 40p for a paperback, 50p for a hardback, so I got a little bit carried away. So I'm not going to go into detail about any of these, but I got this little stack of theology books. Some of them are authors I've come across before, some of them are vaguely related or directly related to my research, so all of them are ones that I will get to at some point, but I'm not going to go into detail about any of them. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the less obviously theological ones that I picked up from that book sale. So I got 2 collections of Christian poetry. It's been a while since I've really read a lot of poetry and I want to get back into it, so I saw these and I thought they'd be good to read like a couple a day, probably in the morning, and while I'm having my breakfast I tend to read a little bit of like either Christian non-fiction or devotional Bible study type stuff, so I thought that would be a good way to mix up my breakfast reading. I also saw One Summer America 1927 by Bill Bryson. I was recently listening to a bookish podcast, I think it was called The Literary Edit Podcast. Each episode someone brings their kind of desert island book list. In this episode the guest was talking about Bill Bryson, and I read his book on Shakespeare, which I really enjoyed, but I haven't read anything else by him, and I thought this looked really interesting, especially because we're coming up to 100 years since 1927. I find the 1920s quite interesting, so I thought I'd give that a try. And then I got a book series by an author I hadn't heard of called Catherine Jinks. So there's 4 books in the original series, and then I think this is the first book in a spin-off series. There's a little note on it from the person who donated it. The first one is called Pagan's Crusade. We've got Pagan in Exile, Pagan's Vows, Pagan's Scribe, and then the spin-off book is called Babylon. These are set in medieval times following, I think he's a squire initially, but maybe goes on to be a knight or a monk or something. It's kind of set in the time of the Crusades, and so I'm really intrigued to see how the Crusades are presented, particularly I think as it's written from a Western historical perspective. And it also says in the author bio that she's inspired by Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So yeah, really interested to see what this is. I was tempted just to get the first one, but then I did think, because I've not heard of the author before, if I got the first one and enjoyed it, how easy would it be to track down the rest of them? Whereas I might as well pick up all 5 of them now, and if I don't like the first one, I'll just donate them all. Yeah, that was kind of my thinking. Maybe flawed, but never mind. And I think these are young adult, maybe upper end of middle grade. I'm not sure. That is the end of the book haul. There's quite a lot of books. And I mean, I did go, as I say, slightly over the top when I came out of COVID isolation. And I've mentioned on this channel before, I buy books in response to stress, and they did make me feel a lot better. So yeah, who knows how soon I'll get to any of these. Some of them are higher on my priority list than others, for sure. The majority of them were secondhand. So it's for charity. And it's better for the environment to buy books secondhand as well. Anyway, we're going to stop there before I try and justify myself too much. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know some of what you've been buying recently. You can also like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you'd like to hear more from me. And you can also follow me on social media. All that information is listed for you in the description box below. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!